welcome to the Hub Talk Show. How are you guys doing out there tonight? Would you guys like, share, and tag someone? It's already 7 p.m. Could you believe it, on this beautiful Friday afternoon? We are here to share some education, information about critical strategies for church safety. So you're here, we're at the Hub, where we discuss health, finances, community education, and politics. Meet us the first Friday of the month as we have new guests and topics would not only inspire you, but well as educate you as well. The Hub is where ministry meets community. I am your host for tonight, B. Smith, and it's a pleasure just to be here. And so if you're out there in Facebook land, and if you can tag, share, and like it, tell them to come on in and join us this evening. I have some of Hampton's finest police officers that will be with us today, and they are here just to speak with us about being safe. I have Sergeant Eric Rummel, and also I have Corporal Wilson, and I'll be giving you a little bit of their background as they get ready to come on to the show tonight. But it is just an honor to be here. I'm excited about what we're going to be discussing, because safety is important. And as you know and understand, there are a lot of things that are going on in this world. And you all know that violence has increased across this nation, wherever you are. So the most important thing is that we want to educate you on being safe, and especially in the church community. So as I introduced them, Sergeant Eric Rummel began his career with the Hampton Police Department in 2003. He has patrolled every area of Hampton, and he served in the Coliseum Central Business Improvement District. Sergeant Rummel spent 3 years as a detective investigating crimes from burglary to shootings. Sergeant Rummel is currently a team leader for the Division of Mobile Response Team. He is a defense tactic instructor and often teaches the police academy in service training. He values community and currently serves as the commander of the Community Services Community Engagement Unit. That is so awesome. And then we also have Corporal Wilson, who began his career also with the Hampton Police Department as a cadet in 2001. So in 2003, he completed the police academy and became a sworn police officer. So through his career, Corporal Wilson has worked every patrol shift, including a time as a K-9 handler. He also worked in the Coliseum Central Business Improvement District and currently serves as the first consolidated enforcement officer for the city of Hampton. Corporal Wilson serves as a crisis negotiator and previously served on the mobile response team. He is one of the division's primary firearms and use of force instructors. Corporal Wilson is a certified crime prevention specialist and an expert in active threat training. So if you all can welcome them to the show today, you still all got time to like, share, and tag someone. So Corporal Wilson and Sergeant Rummel, you guys can go ahead and join us tonight. They are out on a Boy Scout retreat, but they have joined us all the way from where they are tonight. So say hello to everyone. Guys, how y'all doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Good. So we're excited that you guys have decided to join us tonight for the Hub Talk Show, where community meets ministry. And so I was doing a little bit of research and reading and kind of reading some articles, but I've heard that violence has increased across the nation, almost doubled and almost tripled of what it was probably previously before we even had COVID. And so I know we got a couple questions before we jump in that, and we'll do a round robin type of thing. I just want you guys to talk about safety and how the violence has risen, and some of the factors and the reasons why those things are taking place today.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and start us off with that. It's no doubt that more than ever, even our older population has access to media like never before. Social media is booming from the age of 80 to 12. So the ability to get information quicker really makes it seem like it's even worse than it is sometimes, because we only get shared the bad stuff, right? I mean, often we turn on our news Doesn't matter what station you watch, the first 10 minutes are normally not what went right in the community, but what went wrong in the community. So it's not only a increase in violence, but it's also an increase in the perception of how much violence is occurring. And just with society in general, we're always going to have an increase in something, and that includes violence and evil acts. So, but I would like to say, though, even though it's the perception is that it's horrible, reality in most areas aren't seeing all the violence that we're seeing across the country. It doesn't mean it can't happen here, though, and that's why we're here today to talk about that.
Okay. Thank you. Sergeant Rommel, I'm probably going to say it wrong tonight, so just correct me. Any input on what Corporal Wilson just said?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time with our new chief, Chief Mark Talbot. We are very data driven. So we're really diving deep into the numbers, specifically in the city of Hampton, about what's going on and trying to figure out why it's going on and what we can do to impact it. So while we have seen an uptick in violence first half of this year, our numbers, we typically will compare like the last 28 days, year to date, and then we'll compare to like the last 3 years. So 2 years ago was a fairly low year. That's when we were just starting to be impacted by the pandemic and people were staying in. Last year was a record bad year for violence in the city of Hampton. And it started out that we were trending to be worse this year than last year, but we've kind of tapered off and we're kind of on par with where we were last year. We obviously want to always do better. But yeah, the violent crime is definitely out there and it's everywhere. You know, we're currently at Enview Plantation in Newport News. Newport News is not any different than Hampton. And actually this year, Newport News is worse. We kind of go back and forth. And a lot of the victims and offenders that we have in Hampton are from Newport News.
And vice versa. A lot of the victims and offenders they have in Newport News are from Hampton.
Yeah.
Wow.
We just had we actually had a murder yesterday morning and the victim was from Portsmouth. You know, it unfortunately, a lot of these crimes are, certain people are just in the same place at the same time and they have a beef about something. And we've, as a society, we've lost the ability to talk out problems, or even when I was in school, to just duke it out with our fists. We've progressed past that now, and it's now, in order for us to settle something, I have to drive past your mom's house and shoot at it. I mean, it's unfortunate. That's kind of way society is going. So I'm in charge of community engagement. So one of our main focuses is working with the youth in our community. We have several programs that we're doing. We're working with football players from all the high schools in Hampton, teaching them about leadership, teaching them about law enforcement, and having some fun with them. We have a weekly basketball game at Kilgore Middle School where officers are out there with coaches and working with some of these kids that are kind of at risk. And, you know, just we spend a lot of our time trying to do things to positively impact the youth in our community in the hopes that they'll make different decisions when they're old enough.
So you guys are really focusing on the prevention aspect of things and trying to get those things out there to prevent. I mean, I know you said you've seen an escalation, but really to prevent the violence from occurring within the community.
It's twofold. It's twofold. We obviously always want that community outreach, right? We want to prevent it before it even gets started. And then the second approach we're doing, we're using this data and we're targeting the individuals, right? So we know that this group of individuals or this one individual is responsible for X number of shootings, and we're going after them. We are actively trying to stop them from shooting and killing other people or getting killed themselves. And I mean, not just them being the suspect in a crime, but them being the victim of a crime. Because what we started looking at is these shooters are also victims in the end.
That's true.
They're also victims in the end, if not a week later, but a year later. So we're trying to impact them as individuals as well, and that if that's getting them in, revoking something, a privilege that they had with court, maybe a diverted sentence or something else to get them off the street to prevent them or somebody else being killed, we're doing that. So we're working closer with our probation and parole. We're working closer with our judges and our Commonwealth attorneys to pull out these individuals that we know are leaders in causing a lot of these problems. At the same time, showing our youth that, hey, this is not appropriate behavior. This is what happens. So
okay. And I definitely agree with that. You got to go with the prevention approach, because we don't want to be reactive. And I don't want to say we're in a state of reactive now, as in the world speaks, but I mean, definitely we need to come up with a plan. So I'm going to shift a little bit. I know this is Ministry Meets Community, and we're kind of coming from the church perspective. And one of the questions we had is, do you guys understand or know why are churches a target for violent crimes within the community?
Yeah, so that's a super easy one. It's what we call a soft target. There's no locked doors. There's no openly carrying people. There's no security guards normally. Churches are a place of peace, right? And for somebody with the sole goal of a high body count, churches, schools, open air markets, places like that are our highest, or some of our highest areas that see mass shootings or active shooters, because it's an easy target. And what better place to prove a point if you're not religious than a church, right? See, and we hear it all the time from a lot of these terrorists or people who are atheists. They say, see, your God couldn't protect you, right? Even at his house of worship. We hear that, we see that in a lot of the manifestos. Or if it's race related with churches, right? I mean, think of another place to find a race or a group of people unarmed. It's at a church.
It's in a church.
So it's a church.
So the church is so vulnerable because the peaceful mindset that you talked about, the lack of guns, the lack of security. And so when you're talking about these people that are coming, their overall goal is to see how many people they can take out. It's really not about the crime. It's about how many large amount of people in one space and I can take them out, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I heard you say manifesto. Can you let people know exactly kind of what a manifesto is?
Well, manifesto is often used in a negative way. It's essentially your thoughts on something, right? Why I'm doing something. I could write a journal every day, then do something bad, and they'll call it my manifesto, right?
Okay.
It's usually a manifesto when it's done in a negative, or you've done something negative and you've written about it.
Okay.
A lot of active shooters write exactly why I did what I did. You saw it with Columbine had journals and papers they wrote. Virginia Tech had one. Some of the most recent ones, the Buffalo shooter had paper, had stuff that he wrote down and of why I'm doing this. This is why these people mean nothing to me, and it's often ramblings of a madman, but that's what we call a manifesto.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Sergeant Rommel, you want to piggyback or say anything, sir?
No, I mean, we're starting to see, we've both been through some training on protecting houses of worship, and we're starting to see, especially a lot of the larger churches are starting to have either police officers that they're paying to be there during their services, or they have a security team of people that are armed. They have plans in place for what would we do if there's an intruder or an unwelcome guest or a shooter. And they train like the police train. A lot of them are police officers that are off duty.
Okay.
We have a sergeant that works with us that is runs security for Liberty Baptist, which is a very large congregation. and you'll see officers out at Bethel Temple. Now, a lot of times they're there to help direct traffic and other things, but something bad happens, at least you know there's an officer close by. So a lot of churches are, and this training is available for churches as well.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the church. It used to be the Kroger on Victory Boulevard in York County. It's a big church now. I think it's Coastal something. One of their pastors is the retired police chief of Poquoson, and he was a Newport News police captain before he became police chief in Poquoson. And he actually helped teach the class that I took on protecting houses of worship. So a lot of it is, it's difficult for churches because obviously you want to be a welcoming place. You want to, anyone that wants to be there, you want them to be there. You don't want to exclude anyone. So it's, a lot of it is very like kind of soft things that the average person would not notice. Like all of your security guys, most of the places, they're going to be in suits and their weapon's going to be concealed. They have the certification and everything and the license, everything they need to carry a concealed weapon. Just because it makes some people uncomfortable. I know it, and whenever I go to church, I always carry a concealed weapon. And I've actually gone to some like funerals and other kind of special events at my church that I probably not normally would have gone to, but there was enough question about security that I said, well, yeah, let me go to this tonight, just to protect my congregation. But it's tough, and nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to put their head in the sand, like the ostrich. It's not going to happen here. It happened someplace else. It wouldn't happen here. Everybody loves us. And probably,
but you definitely do not want to put yourself in a state of denial that it could not happen at your place of worship. Now, I heard you talk about police or off-duty officers, and maybe these are smaller congregations versus a Bethel Temple or a Victory Baptist Church. Could you guys, either one of you guys, give maybe a pastor that's on the line or a preacher or someone that's on the line, even if they don't even have the concealed to carry, some tips and tidbits of some things they could in place that can maybe deter, or some safety things they could put in place that may be more cost effective than an off-duty cop, which I know can become expensive if you don't have that type of income coming into the church.
So a lot of churches have people who volunteer, right? Either at the front door, the coffee bar, whatever you have going on. And your biggest eyes anywhere at your church are your front door greeters. Right? They're your parking attendants. Having your parking attendants and your front door greeters, being able to look at clues like big bulky clothing, or seeing somebody they've never seen before at the church, cars that you've never seen, them unloading bags, and that's unnormal to bring a bag into church, right? Stuff like that. They're the people who you're seeing first, right? The front door greeters and the parking lot attendants, and then showing them some things like, most people that do these mass shootings want to stay undetected. So when we see these individuals, greet them, walk up to them, shake their hand. Church is a huggy place, right?
We love the hug.
Right. Give them a hug. Give them what we call the pat down hug, right? Right. You give them a hug. You greet them. You walk them to the seat you want them to sit in if they're new. You take them to the coffee bar. You introduce them to other people who have the time to put energy into them. And I mean, because often, churches, somebody new comes by, you may not know for 2 weeks or 3 weeks that this person has been coming here, because we kind of get complacent as parishioners and churchgoers. We find our seat, we find our group of church friends, we do our church thing, and then we head out to the buffet or wherever we're going for lunch afterwards, right?
If you're saying be aware, we really need to be aware. Okay.
And the best people to do it are those parking lot attendants. So when we do our church security training at Freedom Life Church, we include the parking lot attendants and the front door greeters as part of the training, because we want them to know what we're looking for.
Okay.
We want them to know if there's somebody suspicious, hey, hop on the radio, let one of us know, and we'll also come and greet them, right? And we'll put them where we want them to sit. We'll suggest the seat for them. That way we can keep an eye on them, right? And we can all do that in a very nice way. And even if they don't want to sit there, we know where they're gonna. We can watch them sit, but putting them in places that are easily, identifiable is kind of what we're looking for. So one, find those really observant gossipers in your church and put them out in your parking lot at your front
the
door.
big gossipers, huh? Who's gonna get all the juice for you, right? They're your best information getters, right?
Right. And put them out in your parking lot and let them, say, hey, if you see anything weird or crazy, let us know and tell us to come and grab these people. And that's before they even get to your pastor.
Okay.
Right. So, and that is what I think we should do. And if you don't have a security team and your door greeter sees somebody they think is suspicious or weird or new, and the pastor's available, or a deacon or an elder, introduce them.
Okay.
Right. So the pastor knows, hey, this person is new and there's something wrong. Right.
Okay.
We don't know what it is. Can we just take a look at it?
But you don't, I'm glad you said that, Corporal Wilson, because you don't want to be naive to the fact that, okay, this person's just coming here for worship, because there could be greater intentions. And so I'm glad you said it. It's making the church aware. And the word that you use, and I think is common along a lot of churches, just complacent. We want to get in that seat. We want to sit down. We want to hear our worship, and then we want to leave. But there are grave safety things that could be taking place while we're in that service. And so I definitely want to talk to you guys, and you guys may not know, but is there any what are the statistics on violent attacks in churches, maybe in the Hampton Roads area, if you have that information, or even if you have it on a national level? Because I just want to see what the numbers look like and how they've risen in the last couple of years.
So we sent you the link that we're going to use. And if I don't know if you can bring it up or not, but it's page 20 of this link. And this is active shooter incidents at houses of worship. This is from 2000 to 2019. I like to use the 20-year period because that gives us a nice look at all the incidents. Okay. 2020 is out and 2021 data is out, but I still like, if I have a larger number, I like using that. So just quick off the top, 15 incidents.
Wow. 15
incidents in 20 years. Okay. Out of those 15 incidents, they were all male shooters, and there was only one shooter for each incident. So no two shooters. So one person coming in and doing everything. Now here's the big number. It's 147 casualties. Now casualties includes wounded and everything else. So
that's
out of that 100,
an amount of people, that's a lot.
Right. So out of that, it's 80 were killed in those 15 incidents, 67 wounded. Included in those wounded were 5 law enforcement and 2 of the security guards. Now that is spread over 15 events. That's still an average that we don't like, right? That's still not a good average per each event. The average or the highest age of the shooters were between the 20s and 40s, right? So we're looking at white males normally between the ages of 20 and 40 is what we're looking at. In general, for all active shooters, white males from the age of 15 to 50 is kind of the average. Now, if you look at 2020 and 2021, that has changed. That has gone down, but in the last, say, 40 years, it's been white males 15 to 50. So that's houses of worship, which is kind of very specific to what we're talking about. But
there's been an increase we definitely are seeing an increase in casualties in various components of the data you just released.
Right. Now, like I said, I didn't look at 20 or 2021 because it's not going to be the same, right?
Okay.
I prefer, as somebody looking at least 3 years or the big number, right?
Okay.
The 20-year number, because it could be we could have one incident that had a very high number, right?
Mhm.
Like the North Carolina or South Carolina.
The shooting at the church in
At the
South Carolina.
right.
Yes.
Right.
I forget the Baptist church, but the AME
Right.
church, I believe it was. Yes.
Right. I think that was 8 or 9 killed in that church. So that's a big number for one incident in general. So, all right. Yeah, that's the numbers we have. Now I can provide you numbers for anything else if y'all have questions on active shooters in general.
No, I see that they posted the link online, so it gives the people opportunity where they can look at this the data. I think which is important. I heard you say the age is usually between 20 to 40 years old, and you said white males. And I'm going to be a little bit controversial here, and I know a lot of times, they say it's mental health. I mean, I'm a social worker by heart. I don't believe that everything falls under the mental health bracket. Are you all seeing something different? If this is just, I want to take people out, this is my mindset. I want to be notarized. I want society to know who I am. Or is this truly mental health? Because I think sometimes we put everything under the umbrella of mental health, and it's really not. This is what somebody wanted to do. This is what they planned to do, and then they did it. And so it really doesn't fall on that umbrella of mental health. But I kind of want to see what you all think from your perspective.
So I kind of look at it the opposite as you do. If I read the incident and it says my sole goal was to be famous, that's more of a mental health issue. But if the incident is driven by race or hatred, to me, that's not mental health normally. It's hatred, right?
It's evil. Okay.
It's evil, right? And I agree with you. There's a lot of things that I think are just evil and not mental health. Now, we'd have to look at each incident to see what the motives were. But I would say most of them are hatred driven when it comes to churches. Because a lot of the incidents some of these incidents are terrorist attacks. When we say terrorism or terrorist attacks, it's somebody from a different religion coming in and saying, I'm doing this for jihad, I'm doing this for whatever, right? Not to pick on Islam or Muslims, but that's what we see here in our country, being a more Christian community versus Islamic community. But we also see the same thing in against their churches. We see Christians attacking in their country. No, even here, like we've had some mosques shootings, and they're wrapped up in this number as well.
Synagogues,
so all that gets wrapped up in this. So to me, that's hatred driven, right? So that's where I see this less mental health when it comes to churches, more hatred.
Well, I'm glad you're able to see the deviation. You're just like, this is not mental health. And I know the media paints it as mental health, but it's not all mental health. And you said the key word. You said motives. Their motive is clear and what their plan is. And so I definitely thank you for that background information. And I kind of want to shift it because I want to kind of help some of these pastors and ministers out there, some of these who got large and small churches. And I heard something called a violence response plan. Is that something you all do in Hampton? Is that an actual thing? And if it is, what is a violence response plan?
So I look at him because
this is why I brought him.
Yeah, this is why he brought me. So I've done violence response plans for not only churches, but also factories, office buildings, manufacturing facilities. And so what I do as a violence response plan, and we don't necessarily call it a violence response plan. I call it a security survey,
Okay.
right?
Security survey.
The first thing I do is I meet with the individual or the business, and I want to know what they want. What do you want from us? Do you want us to just do a security review, like put lights, cameras, door locks? What do you want, right? Then after that, I ask to look at their policies. Even if it's unwritten policies with the church or written policies and procedures for businesses, because I'm looking at what is their a workplace violence policy, what is their security policy when it comes to keys and locks and locking doors and lunch breaks and stuff like that.
I never thought about that at church, having this kind of policy put in places for keys and locked doors and different things like that.
Right,
I think that's
right.
critical and good information. Yes.
So I look at those policies, and on top of those policies, I'm looking for things they don't have, right?
Okay.
If they don't have a workplace violence policy or just a violence policy in general for a church, right? And I haven't met one church who's actually had a policy manual. Here's written down how we will handle violence in our church. That's not something that churches think about, right?
You're right.
And after I review that, then I come back with a report. My report will say, here's the physical security that I see that we need to improve. Now, the problem with that is it's always a higher price tag, because I give you the high end and I give you the low end, right? Here's what you can do to be the best. That's going to cost anybody. It doesn't matter if you're a business or a church.
Okay.
And then here's what you can do that'll keep you safe, but not as safe as the other, right?
Okay.
Because it'd be the equivalent of saying, I want this real high-end camera versus getting a Ring doorbell.
Okay.
Right? They're not the same. One's providing more than the other, but they both work.
Okay.
Right?
You need something that really, you're saying, get me something that works. Okay. If you don't have something, you need to get something that will work. Okay.
Right. So after I do the physical security review, then I'm doing your policy review. And I'm going to use a corporation, for example, or a business. That business has a workplace violence policy, or most businesses have a workplace violence policy. Sometimes they're super lax on it. Because I ask people around the office, have y'all had any incidents with anybody? Often everybody says, yeah, that, so-and-so was a real pain in the butt, and they did X, Y, and Z, and it took them years to fire them, right? Well, why? If the policy is there and it's strict, why are we taking so long in getting this person out if it violates our policy? And then policies that involve security. So at lunch breaks, you can use this area to eat lunch and smoke, but the door must remain shut, right? Well, then you go there and the door's propped open. It's got a rock under it. They unscrewed the light because it's too bright at night when they smoke or whatever it may be. We get complacent, right? We get complacent again.
You're right.
And we let these things go. And my big push to these people is, no matter how much you spend, if you allow your employees or your congregation to do X, Y, and Z, you might as well erase everything you've done, because them keeping that door open defeats the lock.
Okay.
Them, putting the church flag or having something like the events poster out in front of this camera and blocking the view. Well, that camera is worthless now.
Now the camera is pointless. Why do we have the camera there? Okay.
Why do we have the camera there? So that's the biggest part of my review is here's some things you need to fix. Here's what's good. Here's what's bad. After we do that, then I'll come in and do my active shooter presentation. Right.
Okay.
And I tailor it to your building. So our active threat presentation or active shooter presentation, I use the FBI's, and it's called Run, Hide, Fight. It's the only three things you can do in any incident, right?
That's true.
Run, hide,
and fight.
Run, hide, or fight.
Run, hide, and fight, right? Hide, and fight.
Yeah, it's the same thing I do with my wife, right?
Ooh, boy.
In that order. Run, hide, and then I got nothing else to do but fight.
I guess she's winning the fight.
Always. So we teach run, hide, fight, and that's it's a basic concept. Those are your only three things. Now we prefer you to run and hide if you can, right?
Mhm.
And we talk to you about where to run, how to run, where to go, what to do while you're running, calling
Mhm.
in, communicating, getting that information to the police. And then we teach you how to hide, barricading doors, because now I've done your security review. I know which places are the best to hide.
Okay.
I know the places that you should not be hiding, right?
Okay.
That are easily accessible or just a danger. And then I tailor that to your business, your church, or whatever it is. And then obviously fight. I can't teach you how to fight. I can't, I can't take you to the range. I can't teach you boxing, but we can go over the concepts of,
Like
what it,
maybe like more like self-defense kind of tactic things.
no, when
Okay.
we say fight, we're talking about ending
Oh,
the shooting,
ending it. Oh,
ending
okay.
it.
Ending the shooting.
Now,
Okay. Wow.
right. So if somebody is killing you, right, I don't expect you
Mhm.
to get them in a handcuffing technique for
No.
us to come handcuff them. I want you to hit them on top of the head with the fire extinguisher.
Okay. Okay.
Right. I need them to stop completely. I need you to
Okay.
take them by surprise. Now, I don't like to say we want you to go kill somebody, because that's not
No.
our goal, right? But our goal is to stop the threat, to stop the shooting, to stop the
Stop the threat.
killing. And sometimes the only way to do that is with violence of the same caliber sometimes. And that's the hard part for a lot of churches to swallow.
Mhm.
Is that means sometimes somebody in your congregation or somebody in your business acting out violently to stop other people from dying. But that's what we have to keep remembering, is my action is going to stop somebody else from being killed.
It's almost
Right.
like, I guess, for a church, it's like an oxymoron. We're
It
a
is.
place of peace, we're a place of worship, but we really have to stop this threat. And it may not be through a communicative effort by having this conversation, because we have this live weapon. So even just hearing you, that puts me in a place of, wow, these are
Yeah.
something that we don't even think about in the church, to think like, I got to stop this threat, because we would probably try to stop and be peaceful, because I know the Bible says be peaceful to others. And so, but this is a violent threat. Our lives are in danger. And so
Right.
we have to look at it from that perspective. So I even just hearing you, Corporal Wilson, it's almost like the church at times need to change their perspective and the lens of how they are looking at the threat that can potentially be walking through their door.
Sometimes you got to be the lion and not the lamb, right?
Yeah. I agree. And so I know we're talking about the violence response plan. And I know you were talking about like stopping the threat. So if I'm sitting in my congregation, threat comes in, what are ways that it can be communicated to me that there's actually a threat in there? Or should be a church's team they should have have put together of how they're going to go about to eliminate this threat in the church? You see what I'm saying?
Right. So I know with our church, Freedom Life, we had radio, so we communicated if we had a problem, and we tried to always take care of whatever incident was going on, if it was domestic or a stranger, because we're right there on Coliseum at Marcella. We have, a lot of people walk in off the street, and we would just have to communicate and put somebody on there. Now, if you do not have that and your pastor standing up and he sees something, it's up to your pastor to figure out a way to communicate with you guys. And it's something that he should tell anybody. It's not a secret, right? It's
Okay.
not a secret. It shouldn't be a secret. When I say X, Y, and Z, this is what I want you guys to do. Now,
Okay.
a church is really hard. Let me tell you the hard part about a sanctuary. It's a big open room with nowhere to go often, right? And that's the biggest issue and problem we have mostly with training church security teams is, and churches in general, there's some churches that say, hey, if you want to carry because it's up to the pastor who carries a gun in his church, right? Or her church.
Mm-hmm.
If the rule is, I don't care who carries, well, how do I know who the good guy is and who the bad guy is? If something is to happen and I turn my head and I see 5 people with guns out, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really up to the pastor. It's really up to the elders of the church to decide how they want that to look.
Okay.
And for us, and I think me and Sergeant Rummel are agreeing that it's having a trained team, and then telling your congregation, we have a trained team. If you carry a gun in here and you pull it out, we don't know who you are, something bad could happen to you. Once again, it shouldn't be a secret. We have a team. These are the expectations we have of you guys as a congregation, and then teaching that team what the best exits are and what to tell the people when these incidents happen. I hope that answers your question, because it was kind of a roundabout way, but in reality, it's heavily on the elders and on the pastor to, choose which direction they want to go.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. I believe it's educating your congregation, your pastor being educated, and then also having your team educated in what the plan will be. And then and it was so funny because kind of segue into it, because my next question was like, how do you implement an evacuation drill? And so I know every church is different, but there has to be a plan for your respective church. Now, and then the crazy part is with social media now and broadcasting and live like we're doing tonight, you can sit at home and you can be at a church service, or you can be in the building. So on different Sundays or whenever you're having worship, your numbers are increasing or decreasing. Do you plan an evacuation drill based off how many people you think are going to be in the building, or how many people actually can fit in the building?
Always plan it on how many can fit in the building, because if it happens on Easter, when everybody decides to be good Christians, right?
They're coming. Easter, Mother's Day, and Christmas.
Right. So plan it based off these big holidays. So when we call it reunification. So this drill, we call it reunification because when they're out in, if we just did a fire drill at school, it used to be everybody just walked out in the parking lot, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when real fires happen in school, it was crazy. Everybody scattered to the wind. So now we practice reunification drills, which are these, once everybody is out, telling them where to go, right? Okay. And then having that security team identify what they need to get parents and kids together. Because I know for a lot of churches, Sunday school and the children's church are separate, right? Mm-hmm. They're going on in two different places at the same time. Well, if the children go one way and the parents go the other, what do you think the parents are going to want to do?
They're going to want to come run to where their children are.
Right. So this all needs to be part of the reunification or, fire drill, the exit drill.
I even want to ask you a quick question here too, Corporal Wilson, when you say that, positioning even in your church where you're going to have various things. You don't want to put maybe the children down where the front door is. You may want to put them somewhere in the back, or you don't want to so even how you have, I think that's a good point. Just even where you have things positioned in your church, like for meetings, you're having a leadership meeting and you're all right at the front door. Is that the best possible place, or do you need to be in the back somewhere, or do you need a security camera in those rooms? So I want to hear, those pastors and preachers out there, be aware of where you're positioning or having meetings, because you actually might be I think they're called blind spots. You might be putting yourself in a blind spot. So I think I'm glad you brought that point up, because if my kid is over here, I'm running down to get to where my child is. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I'm gonna see do we have any questions out there? Anybody have any questions that are online? We do have a question. Here we go, guys. How do you keep your place of worship secure on the outside? What are things to look for? I know you talked about having those parking lot attendants and the greeters, but are there specific things that people should definitely be looking at on the outside of the church?
Yeah. So when we're talking physical security, we use something called CPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, right? Mm-hmm. And most buildings built in the last 10 years use CPTED, architects use CPTED to create plans that increase safety just with the style of the building, right? And we can take schools as an example, how you get into a school that is 10 years old versus a school that is 50 years old. It's a lot different, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
but often we're working with churches and buildings that are 50, 75 years old. So when we look at that, we have to look at, in SEPTED, the four principles are access control, visual surveillance, maintenance, and territorial reinforcement. And I'll start with access control. When we are getting people, let's just say it's a Wednesday night and we have, it's not a normal church Sunday, but it's a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night where we have youth groups and people meeting for Bible study. Trying not to have 10 doors open. Right? Having everybody funnel through one door, although it may create an issue for somebody to walk farther down a hallway, which is an inconvenience, right? But security is often inconveniencing. Reducing access to anything is the first part of security, right? When you go into a bank, when you go into hospitals, their access control is really tight. They have 100 doors on the front of a hospital, but you can only go into 2 of them.
Yep.
Right. But often we go to these churches, we go to places of business where somebody walks in and they prop a door open at the other end of the building so they can either get air or they can let other people in that way quicker. And then with access control, we're also talking how cars get in and out, right? Having one entry into the parking lot, even though you may have 2 or 3, having it one is the one way in and your parking attendants are doing it that way. It makes it easier to also get people out, right? Then we go into the visual surveillance, and that's when we're talking lights. Even if you can't afford cameras at every angle, lighting something up creates that sense of security. Most crimes do not occur in daylight, first off, right? Most violent crimes don't occur in daylight, most. And then people are less likely to do things if they can be seen and identified, right? So having lights that can help identify people, buying new LED lights versus having those old yellow, musty looking
lights, the ones that flicker in and out.
Right. And just having good lights up. And then I'll go quick into maintenance, and that's just cutting the grass, having the hedges trimmed, and to a level that doesn't create blind spots. You just creating a clean area. We call it the broken window theory, that if a place looks like junk, it's going to eventually turn to junk, right?
That's right.
Often our higher crime is in poverty-stricken areas, and poverty-stricken areas look bad normally, right? I mean, you go down some of the places in Hampton, a lot of the houses are boarded up or windows are broken, the cars are broken into and on flat. We see a lot of crime in that area.
There's a lot of riffraff down there. Yeah.
I mean, and then you go into Farmington. Farmington is well kept, clean. They have people who walk the neighborhood and clean it up all the time. The lights are always fixed. Very low crime. Right. So that's the maintenance piece that we're looking for.
I do have one question when you talk about the access control, and some churches have community events, maybe outside in the parking lot in the church.
Yeah.
Do you still use these kind of tools when you are putting on those events outside within the community as well?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Matter of fact, if you ever get a special event permit through the city of Hampton for an event, and it goes through the permit process, we have an individual who looks at all that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we need to know the ingress and egress, how vehicles can get in. If we need to get a fire engine or an ambulance in, how are they going to get there? If you want people to only enter from some way, you can get like those barrier kind of gates to put up so that, we don't want you crossing here. We want you to come over here. And those kind of things help you control movement. And then it makes it real easy to identify when something is wrong.
Okay.
If only cars are coming in this way and all of a sudden there's a car trying to come in the exit and the attendant people are telling them to stop and they're ignoring them, something is not right with that person. Either they mean to do harm or they're having some kind of medical issue or something, but something that vehicle needs some immediate attention from the security team
Okay.
because something is not right, because they're not doing what they're supposed to do.
Half the
Now,
time
can
it's
they access? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say half the time it's grandma who just don't
Right.
care, but
Grandma.
right.
I meant to turn on the other street, you know.
Right.
But I was going to ask, are those things like different barriers and things? Can people, can pastors access through the city? Is that something like the cities would do? Like, I know we're in Hampton Roads, but is that something like Newport News and Hampton and the greater areas will assist with churches if they're having those type of community events?
So we would tell you to find a third party like Spivey Rentals. They rent the cones and the barrels and the barricades and stuff like that.
Okay.
For bigger events, we if it's something that obviously the city wants to happen as well. For example, Blackbeard Festivals this weekend. We're going to be using a lot of our own barricades to block off streets, right?
Okay.
A lot of our own cones and stuff like that, because that's a big money-making event. If it's on private property, we normally say we'll rent you a stage, and we often that might include cones, but I'm not sure. We normally send you to a third-party rental.
Okay. But then you guys know there's some options out there for individuals. We do have a question, so I want to jump in there before we wrap up, and then I'm going to let you guys have some final remarks. But I do appreciate you guys being on tonight, giving us such a breadth of information that we all can take in. So the question is, what about houses of worship that are in areas that has an increased level of, I guess, homeless population? How do you protect the property? Seems like there's all over, especially at churches. And so they may be, damaging the property, or how do you protect the property from homeless individuals?
So the one thing we did at Freedom Life is that we made our church available to them. We invited them in, we fed them. We did the good Christian thing, right? Which is what we wanted to do in general. But what it also does, and this is kind of your first deterrence for them doing crime, is when you do something like that to somebody and they have a sense of place and being there, they're less likely to vandalize it, right? Or less likely to steal from it. If you make them a member of your congregation, often that deters them enough to say, well, I don't want to make so-and-so mad, or they did so much for me. Now, that's not always. That's what being a good Christian normally means, right? Is I'm going to do something for you, and you'll repay that by just being good yourself, right? The follow-up to that is having nightly checks, or if the church isn't open 24/7, like most of the churches down in South Width of Hamptons, Shell, Kickingham, Pembroke, are 1 day a week shopping center churches.
Yes, they are.
They're 1 day a week shopping. There's not many people there, so we see those often get broken into by homeless, because they know that no one's going to be there usually Monday through Friday, or there might be something there Wednesday and Sunday. So having more events at your church, popping in and out, letting other people use that space to do other things in. If something is used and open and available for people to see that it's being used, less likely to have those vandalisms or those larcenies or the burglaries.
Okay.
Now that also does increase, them panhandling outside trying to get stuff from people, but that often we can't do much of that, because what we find is churches don't want to kick anybody out of a church normally, right? For something like that, they want to try to get them in to make them better. But just being there, being at your church, having events, letting scout troops or Girl Scout troops or Awanas or whatever other youth organization be part of that church to use it as well, puts another person there on. I know we meet on Monday nights at our church, or at the church that we're at. Girl Scouts meet on Tuesday nights. Then on Wednesday nights they have.
You guys got something going on and on. Yeah.
Right. And there's always somebody at that church, and that has kept crime and the homeless population out of it. So,
Okay.
you have anything to add to that one?
No, I mean, basically all the septet stuff is the same, applies to,
Mhm.
right? So if they're looking for a place to sleep, they're not looking for a place that's lit up like the 4th of July. They want some place that's dark, that's quiet. And so look at the exterior of your church. We've had a couple calls recently, so from churches that have some kind of like hidden doorways that are like very secluded, and they come in the morning and there's somebody sleeping back there. If you have something like that at your church, maybe consider putting up like a fence around there or something, so to restrict access. But the lighting, I think, is key. And the visibility is very important for people that are going to be coming and going from the church. So, keeping the hedges down and everything, you want the landscaping to look like it's intentional. You don't want it to look like it's overgrown and just run amok.
Well kept and everything.
Yeah, that's right. So,
Okay.
there's not somebody hiding behind that bush, because if there was, you could see him.
And that could be a safe. I mean, and when you put it in a grand scheme of things, it's all safety concerns. Right. And as I heard Corporal Wilson talk about a little bit before, when he was talking about that, when we're talking about that violence response team and those policies, these things need to be in there. If they're doing that nightly check, are you walking around the building? Is the lights on? Is it well lit? Do we need to come by on Saturday and cut the grass down? So just being aware and having that plan in place and having these procedures definitely will keep you in a place of, I can have safety at this church even while I worship, but we have to have a plan in place. So definitely just for hearing you, I got all those points tonight. But any last pointers? We're going to wrap it up. I have a couple announcements after that, but any last points you want to give to any pastors or leaders out there that they kind of must have, that you would recommend from you all's perspective, and given the statistics that you have given, to keep their congregants safe, and because the churches are in the community, but also to keep the community safe. So I'll let you go first, Corporal Wilson, and then Sergeant Ramel, you can tag on after he's finished.
Yeah, so the big thing is reach out to other churches, see what they're doing. See what if what they're doing is working or not working with their congregation, with the security team. Not everybody is a big church, right? So reach out to the small churches if you're a small church, to see what they're doing. Be a part of whatever local organization, like the Peninsula Baptist Association or whatever, and go to these meetings and talk to them and see, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing with this? How do you have this set up? And work together. That's the biggest thing, is we often find it doesn't matter if it's churches, schools, businesses, that we're not working together. We're not coming together and saying, hey, how do we make ourselves safer together, right? And that's the big thing, is talk to other people. And then call us if you want somebody to come down and do a security survey. We can do that. If you want somebody to come down and do a violence response plan or a active shooter lecture, we can do that. I personally am no longer, because I used to be in his office prior to him getting there. So that's what I did. I'm no longer in that office. I'm at City Hall. But if it's something that he needs me for, I'm more than willing to come out and do like we're doing today and give a presentation.
Okay. Sergeant Ramel, and then also provide any telephone numbers or link where people can go to get additional training, even you all's phone numbers, if you want to put it out there so they can put it in the link where these churches can contact you all, or even, I know we're talking, you guys are in the city of Hampton, but maybe they can redirect it to their localities for assistance. All right,
sure.
Sergeant Ramel, go ahead.
So the only thing that I was going to add to that is for us and talking to churches, it's all about the relationships. So having a relationship with law enforcement before you need us. So when we're done, I'll give you my phone number. I'll give you Officer Manuel Brown that works with me. I'll give you his phone number. And you can contact us. He and I are actually getting ready to go to this school in 2 weeks that Corporal Wilson's talking about, the septet. But really, when all is said and done, the pastors, I think the most important thing is that the pastor is the shepherd of that congregation, right? Whether it's 20 people or 700 people, everyone is looking to the pastor for guidance. And, you know, probably on some level, we put too much on our pastors. We think that they know more than they should know, that they do know. But the important thing is that they're all educated people, they're smart people, and they definitely care about the safety of everyone in their congregation. So it's not always, everyone hasn't always had a good relationship with law enforcement. There are people in our community now that don't like us. We understand that, but we are 100% on board to keep every single person in the city safe. And if that means helping a church to help their 100 member congregation, you know, the things that we talk about for being safe in your church are not any different than being safe when you're at Walmart or being safe. You know, we come out and give all kinds of other kinds of talks on personal safety, how to not become victims of fraud. Things like that is huge, especially with the elder community. Last year, $8 billion were lost by the elderly in the United States in scams. So we give a lot of talks on that. We just want to be a resource. When you want to know about, you know, the things that Corporal Wilson's been talking about, I don't know those things, but I call him and say, hey, can you do this? When you want to know about what do police canines do? Can somebody come and talk to us? I'll call MPO Boyd and he'll come and talk to you. You know, so I'm kind of like I'll plug in the A-team guy for whatever it is you want to know about. We love working with church groups. I just gave a talk at Gloria Day Lutheran 2 weeks ago on frauds and things like that. So generally, you know, church people are amazing. They go out of their way to help other people, and that's essentially what we do. And we get paid a little bit to do it. But that's what we sign up for, right? Is to help people in their time of need.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you both for joining us tonight, Corporal Wilson and Sergeant Ramo, and all the hard work you do for the city of Hampton and the Hampton Police Division. We appreciate you all joining the hub tonight and those final remarks. So I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to do my announcements, and then that is the end of the show. But we say thank you just for taking the time out to be with us tonight. And it was great having you all.
Let me give you my number.
Okay.
All right.
He's giving this number. You all take notes. They're going to put it in the chat. So just say it.
All right. It's 757-915-7974. And that's my phone number. That's my cell phone. I'm the only one that will answer that. Officer Emmanuel Brown that works in my office, his number is exactly the same, except his last number is 2. So his number is 757-915-7972. So you can call either of us. I can't remember my assistant's phone number. It's 2260. It's 757-727-2260. That's my assistant. She's the one that schedules everything for us.
Okay. I think I talked with her. Yes.
Yeah, Ethel. That's Ethel.
Mhm.
So, and she's actually getting ready to get her certification that she's been studying to be a minister, believe it or not.
Wow.
So yeah, if you call and want to set something up with us, she's a good person to reach out to because she runs our calendar. Because we're all over the place. So thank you.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Definitely appreciate you all. And so I'll shift you guys out, but have a great Boy Scouts trip, and we will be reaching out to you all soon. So you guys have a great and phenomenal day, guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank our House God Worship Center leaders for joining us. We want to thank our guests, and we want to thank our viewers for joining us tonight on essential strategies for church safety. I hope you enjoyed the hub tonight. Just a couple of announcements. Don't forget this weekend, this Saturday at 12 to 4 p.m. we will be having our funnel cake frenzy. Come on out, get a funnel cake. You're definitely going to enjoy yourself. It is from 12 to 4. All right, come out and eat good. All right. The next thing is join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from Jumpstart from 7 a.m. to 7:15 a.m. and every Sunday morning at 10:50 a.m. Also, we'd ask you to get connected with House of God Worship Center. Download our app. You actually can go back and watch the hub. We are on YouTube, so just join us and connect with us, and you can get all of the information that we all shared tonight, as well as you can go back and watch all the old videos. Lastly, but certainly not least, we want to invite you all to join us on this Sunday at 11 a.m. for our Sunday morning worship. We will see you all next month on the hub. You all having a great night, and thank you all for joining us. See you later.